tuned in this Wednesday night, which is Valentine's Day. I'm glad you're taking the time to us join together. I hope you had a great day and have a great evening as well. You may be with your husband or your significant other or with family or friends, but however, remember we all want to enjoy love. And love is something we should enjoy every day of our life. Well, tonight we have guests with us again. And first I want to say we have with us a special guest, my wife, Lady Nina Jones. Let's say amen for her. Amen. And happy Valentine's Day to you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And also we have with us Dr. Brandy Peoples, everybody. Thank God. We had a great time last week, and we're going to continue in talking about relationships. Now, what we're going to do tonight is something a little bit different. We're going to be answering questions that were actually submitted from last week's session. And so, guys, I hope you guys are all ready for this discussion. It's going to be exciting and impactful and enlightening, that we all can have better relationships. So I want to, let me move this out of the way real quick. Here we go. We have a question. Thank you. I thank you very much. I once was blind, but now I can see. Here we go. It says, if a woman husband is abusive, does that mean she should still submit to him in everything? Is she justified in not submitting in some areas and not in others? Now, Dr. Peoples kind of talked about this before we came out, and so I'm going to kind of lead us into this, and then I want you ladies to get involved. This is a very interesting question. I'm going to read it to you one more time. It said, if a woman husband is abusive, first question I'm going to ask, what is being called abusive? The reason why, just for clarification's sake, because abusiveness is not only physical, but emotional, financial. There are many ways how you can harm a person in a relationship, neglecting them, not showing any attention or affection. All these things can hurt a person and crush a person. So I'd like to know, first of all, what is being called abuse? Because on the other side of the coin, everything we call abusive, by our standards, may not be abusive to somebody else. For instance, you take like a mother, an older woman, who's used to get up in the morning time, fixing her husband's breakfast, you know, having hot coffee and eggs and bacon, all that stuff, and they're having breakfast together. It was normal for her. But her daughter grew up with a different idea. And when she got married, she told him, you better cook for yourself. And she considered him asking being abusive. So what is the perspective? So that for this question, to answer it really very more accurately, I'm just curious, what is abusive? And then it says, if a woman's husband is abusive, does that mean she should still submit to him in everything? Well, now we're talking about in Ephesians chapter 5, when it talks about the fact that the woman, first of all, in verse, I believe, 19 or verse 20, it tells them that they should submit to one another. Then it goes into the fact of the woman submitting to her husband, and basically in everything, or as unto the Lord. And then it says, is she justified in submitting to some areas and not in others? Now, this is my perspective, is that, first of all, why do you want to submit in some areas and not others? Now, maybe if the areas you don't want to submit are immorality, is it something that's against the law? If it's something that's demeaning, For instance, a husband asks his wife, we need more money. Why don't you go out there and be a prostitute? That's immoral and against the law. I would tell her, run as fast as she can in the opposite direction. The point, though, is I like to know why you would do certain things and other things when the whole real problem seemed to be, is this abuse? What is this, and can we deal with it, and can we resolve it? And if we can't resolve it, then what do we do? And that's where I'm going to open up for you ladies to tell me what we should do.
Well, Bishop, I love being able to clearly define abusive. Because in this day and age, the default, we tend to think physical abuse.
Right.
But we now know that there is emotional abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse.
Right.
So to get a better idea what type of abuse it is, I think helps to really define what your next step should be. And then also that submission piece.
Right.
I love how you took it back to Ephesians 5, because it mentions not only do the wives submit to the husbands, but husbands also submit to the wife.
Right.
And then also threaded in that text is the sacrifice. The husband is to sacrifice himself for the wife, just like Jesus does for us, did for us. So with that being said, I think that adds to the answer for the individual interested in knowing what should they submit to and what is abuse. I think because the most obvious answer, if you're being physically abused, your safety's being compromised, your morality's being absolutely go. But then there are so many other nuances to where you have to clearly define what's abuse and then what should you do next.
I agree with you, Dr. Peoples. My mind first went back to being abusive, someone being abusive, being physically abusive. But I thought about, there was a member at the church that we came from. She was saved and her husband was not saved. And I remember I was spending the night with them one weekend, and her husband wasn't saved. And so I was just so amazed as to how she treated him. Sweetness, she was a sweet lady. And so he wanted a beer from the refrigerator. She says, okay, darling. She got the beer for him, set it down, had his plate fixed for him, and just stood there and just served him, and it was just very loving. And then some women that are Christians or saved, they would think that would be abusive for their spouse to ask them to give them a beer or something to drink out. Not that she was maybe agreeing with what he does, but that was something that was so, to me, it was very mild, but just how she did it, it would just made it, her spirit was just so submissive to him. So I would definitely have to have a clarification of abusive, because it could be abuse, someone being abusive could be kind of categorized in so many different ways. I just think that we should, as the scripture was saying, as being submissive one to the other. And I think common sense, if someone is physically abusing you, you don't want to be in a relationship where you're being physically harmed or putting yourself in danger. So I just think we have to really be wise and define exactly what is abusive, because it could be speech, it could be how you address someone, defined in many different ways.
Very good, very good. Now let me just throw it in for both of you. When they talk about submitting, I thought it was really an interesting part, because it talks about how the church in Ephesians submit to Christ. Let's be honest now. Is the church really submitting to Jesus Christ? That is the model we're supposed to follow, to be submissive. And some of you probably say, what are you talking about, Pastor Jones? We have church on Sunday. But Jesus told us to go out and be a witness for him. We're very slowful as Christians to do that. Jesus says if we love him, do what? Keep his commandments. We keep the commandments we want to keep. So now take that same ideology, that same thinking, and put it into a relationship where in this day and time, I'm hearing young men complaining they can't find a wife because the women have become so overbearing. So how does this all work? And that's the point I want to push, because if it comes to submitting, is she justified submitting in some areas and not in others? Is that not what we do today in the church?
I can definitely
Go ahead.
answer that question. It's very reminiscent of a conversation I had earlier today. Really think about where we are in this day and time, in this generation. Turn on the TV, radio, what have you. You don't hear submission.
Right.
You hear rebellion.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I think we've taken that on. And what we see in the body of Christ is rebelling against Christ. For children, rebel against parents, rebel against teachers. And then it has also affected relationships. Rebel against your significant other. You know, it is seen, I was watching something on YouTube, and the woman was being criticized because she was preparing her husband's lunch for work. And in the comments, everyone was saying, I would never do that. He's a grown man. He can do that for himself. They made such a big deal. And the woman responded, it is an honor to be able to do this for my husband. This is a joy. I take joy in cooking. I'm a stay-at-home wife. I want to do this for him. Think about where we are, where people are being demeaned because they want to make their husband a sandwich.
Wow. Wow.
So going back to your question, I think that can explain part of why it is so hard for younger people now, especially, to find a significant other, because everyone is thinking about self and not necessarily thinking about submission.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Apologize. That was not a commercial break, everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, everyone is thinking about self, everyone is rebelling, and not necessarily about submitting for the other person's benefit.
Right. Anything you want to say?
No, I think she summed it up on that. That's,
Okay.
that's excellent.
All right. The point here, I think, is very important because we want to help couples to solve their challenges. And part of the submission is something we talked about. The basis of relationship is that, can these people communicate? You know, can they really listen to one another and talk versus we fighting back and forth and I'm saying, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me. But the reality is that I'm not listening to her. And therefore, because I want to force change versus seek agreement. And we should try to seek agreement and not try to make people change. And I tell anybody watching now, if you're single and you got some lady you want to marry or some guy you want to marry, do not marry them with the idea you're going to change them once you get married. It will not work. You have to understand the fact that this is who they are, and do you agree with that? If you don't agree with that, then leave them alone. Okay, so here we go back. It says here, so I think to finish this question, number one, if we can agree on the fact that if versus picking and choosing what to submit to, the spouses should be caring to one another in spite of, but seek resolve of the problem. And if the problem is abusive of a nature where this person is not going to stop the behavior that's destructive, then they should leave. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. A preacher said that, okay? Now, number two, it says this question. How should a person respond to a spouse who demeans him or her? What if one is a Christian and the other is not? If you know someone in that situation, how can you help that person? Anybody want to go first on that one?
I would say, if I'm understanding the question correctly, if that spouse is being demeaning to that other spouse, which is not saved, I would say to show them love.
Well, I would say not only though not saved, but
Or either or.
right.
Okay, just demeaning. First, I would say is to try to show love to that partner for whatever reason they are not being. They're showing you a negative mannerism. It's just to try to show them love and to figure out what is me. I try to figure out what's your problem. What's going on? What's causing you to be so angry or so negative or so unappeasing to me? Try to figure out what the problem is and try to talk it out and see, not to come back at them the same way, because then you're going to get into a big argument and who's going to win, who's going to lose. So I wouldn't try to be combative with them, but I would try to talk to them and find out what is the problem, what's going on, so we can cut it.
Oh, no, I think you answered that perfectly as you were speaking. I was thinking about just a potential situation. Imagine if someone were to denigrate that person, and then you in turn start cussing them out. That escalates the situation, and then immediately the scripture came to mind, do not repay evil for evil. So what your answer is, just continue to show love. I was immediately thinking about the fruit of the Spirit. That is the perfect time, self-control, patience, and it is hard, but these are the situations that really test. Do you have who you say you have, and that's Jesus in your life? And then obviously the next piece will be talk it out. What is causing you to demean me? Is it some kind of personal insecurity that you have? And if you find that conversation isn't productive, maybe you need to bring in a third party, a therapist, a pastor, or what have you, so you can really figure out what is it causing my spouse, my partner, my equal, my supposed friend, the person that I'm one with. I immediately think if you're demeaning me and we're one, is that a roundabout way of how you feel about yourself?
Very good point. Very good point. Here's one other thing I'd like for you all to think about. When it says, how should a person respond to a spouse to demean him or her? I want to tell you a little story. There was this preacher. He was very staunch in his conduct. He wore a black suit every day, white shirt every day, black tie every day, black shoes and black socks. And his wife couldn't do anything right according to him. So one morning she decided, I'm gonna make my husband happy. I'm gonna make him happy. She said, honey, what do you want for breakfast? The Reverend said, I want 2 eggs, 1 fried, 1 scrambled, 2 pieces of toast lightly buttered. I want my coffee black and hot. So she gets the food together. You can see the steam coming off. He sits down at the table. He goes to eat, going, woman, you did it again. What'd I do, baby? You scrambled the wrong egg. The point is, here's an example of a person who keeps abusing a person. He finds everything she does wrong. And people like that, they will break you down emotionally to where you lose confidence in yourself, of your own self-worth. So how should a person respond to a spouse who demean him or her? The first thing is that you do show, I agree, love. And the reason why you show love, because you do not want the root of bitterness to set up in your life. Be honest about the problem. What some people have done, I've seen in church, they pray and they pray and they pray, Lord, change him, or Lord, change her, Lord, change him, Lord, change her, and nothing happens. Now they get mad at God. Lord, why you got me in this, God? The harsh reality is, God yet, who is all-powerful, has also given every person a free will. And God could be working on them, talking to them, got people talking to them, but they refuse to change. They're not going to change. Now, I'm not saying that to discourage anybody. I'm saying for you to get your sanity back so you can understand the fact that if someone is talking you down continually, saying you're not attractive, you too fat, you too little, and this is a true story. We knew a couple, this gentleman and his wife, they were married, they had a child. And when she had the child, she had 10 pounds more than what she had when they got married and couldn't get it off. He divorced her for that. That was painful to her because 10 pounds? But he had an issue with weight. And instead of addressing it, he therefore just separated himself from her. So when somebody begins to abuse it, the other part of the question says, what if one is a Christian and the other is not? My answer to that is this, and for us to talk about is that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it talks about the fact if you're married to an unbeliever, but they desire to stay with you, don't put them away. Vice versa, on both sides of the coin. Because they're an unbeliever does not mean they cannot be a good spouse. The preacher said that too. The point of it is, you have to understand you are both have been married. You gave life to Christ. They haven't made that decision yet. This is where, once again, where love becomes paramount, because by the sanctifying of the husband to the sanctifying of the wife, and the sanctifying of the wife and to the husband, by your conduct, your actions, and of love, of showing this love of Christ to them, not quoting Bible verses, but how you conduct yourself with them, how you talk with them, how you engage with them. And yet things you know that are not correct. I give you a good example. Here's Esther, a Jewish woman, married to a Gentile. But she had a mission to save her people. But she could not approach the king. But she was fine, they say, as fine could be. Excuse me, Nina. It's in the Bible. But what occurred was that she stood where he could get a glimpse of her. And it got him to engage with her and to talk with her. Finally, she got him to come so she could make some refreshments for him. And therefore, it led to the salvation. But she never disrespected him. And that's not for just women. That's also for men. The man has to understand the fact that not to be disrespectful. And then it says this, if you know someone that in this situation, how can you help that person? 1, be honest about what's going on. 2, still show love. And 3, if it's unbearable, seek an exit plan. Absolutely. A preacher said that. Okay, I'll be quiet. Ladies, anything I want to say?
You know what? I will add to that because you were talking about Esther, right? And I absolutely love that story because we see her character.
Right.
Is what brought her to the forefront. It says that she found favor with the attendants because she was humble.
Right.
She asked the right questions. She knew what to bring with her eventually when her time was going to come,
right,
when she met the king.
Right.
So that speaks quite a bit to the character that we have to, and then also the preparedness. You know, there was a 12-month period before she even had an audience with the king. So even to aside to that, for singles who are watching, don't neglect this season of preparedness.
Right.
Because this is your time for purification. This is your time for sanctification.
Right.
You don't know what God is doing, so you can be ready to meet your soon-to-be king.
Excellent. Anything you want to say? Okay. All right. Okay. Now, third question is it possible to love one's spouse without respecting him or her. What can be done to establish both love and respect? Ooh. Anybody want to go first with that one?
And not being respectful.
Right. So how is it possible to love one spouse without respecting him or her? What can be done to establish both love and respect?
That's a good question. I would think it would be very hard to not love, to not even be respectful, to love somebody and not be respectful to them. Things happen in life where, in marriages or relationships, where you have disagreements and you don't always see things the same way, but you still should have that level of respect for them, for that person, and not, I just don't see how you could not be respectful. I mean, how you could not love them, how you could love them and not be respectful. Somewhere along the line changes, unless there's something that really happens in that relationship where things have been broken. Then that's possible. Maybe really you actually could love them and not respect them because their actions are not being up to standard as to what the desires of what a relationship should be in a godly relationship. So maybe there could be a line broken where you lose that respect for a person because you can love them and not be respectful. Thinking about it more and more, but it would be hard unless there had to be something to happen to really break that connection or that line of respect for them. Okay. So it could actually, I think it could happen. It actually could happen.
Okay.
Actually, I agree with you. And this is a really tough question. I'll lean on how you were thinking about things earlier, Bishop, because my thought is, well, what's your idea of love? I think people have a false understanding of love because when I think about what love is, God is love. Right. And when I think about loving God and God loving me, respect is there, honor is there, trust is there, safety is there. So is it possible to love one spouse without respecting him or her? I think it's possible, but is that really love? Because there are couples maybe who have been together for such a long time, 20, 30 years, and there was some indiscretion, and they're just kind of there because it's easy to stay together. What is it? What do they say? It's cheaper to keep her. It's easy to stay together, and they respect, and there's no respect there. But is there really love? That just sounds like history. They're used to each other. Maybe they like each other, or maybe even we tolerate each other. That doesn't truly sound like love to me.
Very good. Very good. Very good. I'm going to say this to you. When you talk about respect, what is respect? It's a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. And I think we need to really understand the fact that that's why in Proverbs, when it talks about the virtuous woman, it was her abilities, her qualities, her achievement that even made him known because of her action, her conduct. Now, I may ruffle some feathers right now, and I hope not. But I think we live in a time now where couples don't see the importance of partnership. Eve was made to be a helpmeet to Adam. Not to be stepped on, not to be less than, but to be a helpmeet to him. Therefore, he had to respect her abilities, her qualities, her achievement. Why would he, who was made by God, listen to a woman that was out of his rib, tell him that what, you need to eat this fruit. He had a trust in her. And that trust come by their abilities, qualities, and achievements. Then when we talk about in the epistles, as it teach the older women, it teach the younger women about how to love their husbands, how to love their children. We're talking about, again, demonstrating qualities that, I'm speaking now from the man perspective, they say, oh, wow, look at my wife. Look what she could do. She does this, she does that. And vice versa, the woman, I'm gonna throw this in now, should make sure she can say about her husband, look how good my husband is. Look what he does for me. What he does this, does that, because I will tell any woman that's single, when you get, or any woman especially, when you get married, don't marry a dumb head. Because a lot of women will marry men who they really don't respect. But yet, at the same token, they have the fantasies. Their endorphins are kicked in by his looks, his presence. But you're thinking that when we get married, he's not wearing those kind of suits anymore. When he gets married, I'm gonna help him to get a better job. When we get married, I'll tell this is a true story. I did a wedding years ago. This couple went to another church, a very large church, and they had no room, no schedule. There was a member of our church that knew them. They asked me, would I please talk to this couple? So I did. I did premarital counseling with them. And one thing I found out in the midst of the premarital counseling was she was a workaholic. She liked to work. He had a seasonal job. And I kept sensing like, well, how are you gonna handle it when he's not working and you're working? No problem, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. I said, okay. But I kept sensing like, there's something here's missing. Wedding, beautiful. Great spirit in the wedding. It was almost 9 months later when I saw her on a parking lot, and she was pregnant with twins. And she had these boxes in her hand. I asked her, well, how you doing? How's everything going? I see you're gonna have a child. I said, oh yeah, just a few weeks. I said, how's the marriage going? I filed for divorce. I said, you do what? I got sick and tired of seeing his lazy self in bed. He was in love, but there was no respect. And I think it's very, very important that when couples come together, we have in the church historically have rushed people to get married for one reason, to avoid sexual sin. Get married, better marry than to burn. Of course, you don't hear that too much nowadays, do you? But the thing is, when you marry somebody, it should be more than just simply a feeling.
Right, exactly.
It should be the fact that I admire you, I respect you. We can partner together. We have talked and we've agreed. I'm not waiting for the day after we get married. We have joined together in thought because of our respect for each other and our partnership.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, certainly.
Even thinking about women, I think women, we tend to marry or think about the potential and not the reality. We see the fantasy, he has these flaws and these faults. And because we are helpers by nature, we think we can come in and help them and improve and progress, right? But I'll say this, we're the helper, not the Holy Spirit. There's a work that only the Holy Spirit can do within that person that we can't do. And I think many women have fallen victim to trying to be the Holy Spirit in that person's life and pull them up when there's a work that they need to do, one, and then also they need to accept God so God can do the work. That's how you end up carrying a burden that you were never meant to carry. And then you tire yourself out. And then the other piece to that is a lot of women are settling for less because there's a fear, a longing, a not wanting to wait, the thought of they'll never get married, never have children. So let me just accept him now, even though he don't work.
True.
He play video games all day. Because at least I got a man. And a little bit of a man is better than none at all.
Ooh, help us, Jesus.
And that's a fallacy. And that is a notion and a theory that will end up hurting you in the long run.
Right.
Because it would have been better for you to stay single and be whole than walk out of that relationship broken and then having to start the healing process all over again.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's a very good point, Dr. Peoples. I would just say, sisters, don't settle. Wait until God brings somebody in your life that is suitable for you and you suitable for him. If you try to push things and to make things happen they're just, some things are just not there and they're not going to change. Don't ever think that you can marry someone and that you can change them, because that's not going to happen. So don't settle. Just wait until God sends you somebody that you truly desire and that is truly your helpmate, your compatible spouse is what I'll say.
I just want to say this. I think one of the things in the church we have not addressed, how do you know God sent somebody? I mean, I think it used to be the fact that we prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and then finally we said, God told me. Well, I got another story to tell you. There was this man in church. He was in church and there was testimony service. And he stood up and he said, saints, they called him to testify as the saints, pray for Jesus, he confused. The saints go, oh my God, Jesus is confused. I said, pray for Jesus, he confused. Got 3 women in church all told me God said, I'm gonna be their husband. The point of it is this, I think, that how do we know that this person is from God? Remember the Bible says, when a man finds a wife, he's found what? A good thing and attained favor from the Lord. How do you know you found a wife? Well, the first of all, it goes back to one simple thing. Do you know who you really are? Do you really know yourself? Do you know what you like and don't like? Now, the one thing I told Lady Nina before we got married, 40 plus some odd years ago, that never expect me to cook. I said that back then, and I've kept my word. The reason why for it? For some reason, cooking to me makes me impatient. I feel very jittery about it. But what I did say also, before you ladies get mad at me, I said, but what I'll do to cook, I'll take you out. And I've done a lot of that over the years. But the thing is, do you know who you are? Now, that's only one part. I've learned a lot about myself over the years, but the point is, I think it's very important that you know who you are, what you accept, what you will not accept, to understand what your goals are, your ambitions, then communicate with that person. Are you on the same page? Now, I tell anybody, if you're getting married, do not accept a one-word answer. If they say yes, no, don't want that. You need to know what they mean, what they're talking about. Because people will represent. But after they get married, now here they are. So I think it's very, very important that we as men and women, that we come to love and respecting one another, that what we really understand, I can't respect somebody I don't know. I need to know you. I need to know who you are. You need to know who I am. Do we agree? Do we not agree? Those are things we have to do. And that requires honesty.
I love what you said, knowing who you are, because I definitely want to also speak to single men as well,
Yeah,
right?
please do.
So let's go back. Let's look at the Bible. Let's look at Samson. He was told who he was. He was told what he was called to do,
Right.
ever since birth, right?
Right.
And he compromised. And because he made a compromise on who he was, he ended up dealing with the wrong type of woman who cost him not just his ministry, but his life.
Right.
So my word to single men, there's a responsibility for you too. Be mindful of who you are, and knowing who you are affects your choices. And if you pick the wrong woman, i.e. a Delilah, that will cost you your life. Because unfortunately, Bishop, we're in a situation where there are young men that have children spread all across the city. Protect your seed.
Right.
How can you advance your ministry, your vision, your life when you have a child over there, a child over there, a child over there? That's division.
Right.
So my word for men would be the same thing. Be mindful of who you are. Be mindful of your lust. Don't let your lust lead the way. You should be looking for that Proverbs. In the book, in Samson's story, he was given warning after warning after warning. But in the end, he said, I just want to do my own thing. And look at what it cost him.
Wow. Okay, we got one more question here. This is going good. The last question is this. How does a single parent provide the love and encouragement that would normally come from the absent parent? How can the church help such parents? Anybody? I'll read it again to you. How does a single parent provide the love and encouragement that would normally come from the absent parent? How can the church help such parents? Anybody? If not, I'll do.
I'm just trying to think. My answer to that would be, depending if it's a male with a child or if it's a female with a child, especially if it's a son, because I've heard men say over and over again that a woman cannot teach a boy, a young man, how to be a man, a boy how to be a man. I think they can give values to them. I think they can show them a lot of love and teach them things in life. But there's certain things that may be hard for that single mother to teach a male child. So what I would do in that case, if it's a male child, is to find someone or a program where they can have that child to interact with other men. So if it's just a household of women, that they can have some masculinity around them to teach them how to do certain things, how to treat a woman, how to act themselves, and vice versa. If it's a man with a female child, with a girl child, is to find some type of activity or program, even in the church, where they can be active and be participants, and being around other young ladies where they can learn certain things that maybe daddy can't teach them about being a young lady or how to be a young lady. You can truly show them love and teach them how to be gracious, teach them the basics, but there are some things where the opposite sex has to come in and to help to gear their child. So I would find something in church, find a program where they can learn some values, some other values.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And this is an interesting question, because I was actually thinking, I was listening to something earlier, and it challenged me, my concept of when we say single parent households, because immediately our minds go to single mothers.
Right.
Well, then that person talking said, let's kind of change our language and not say single mothers, but fatherless households. Because I think sometimes so much of the blame is you're a single mother, you're a single teenage mother. What did you do to put yourself in this situation? And I think that person ends up feeling guilty and ashamed and all of this. Well, there was somebody else involved too that brought about this situation. So why is this a fatherless home? So I also think the church can assist by thinking about this from another perspective and then provide the support that you just named, whether that's financial support, resources, but then also affirmation. And then I'll throw another piece in there. Let's sit down with that single parent so we can prevent them from bringing other children into the household where they may not be financially prepared or emotionally prepared. There's an emotional lack when you're trying to parent and you're the only one. There is some financial piece that's being missing. There's a mental strain. So I think being able to provide a counseling service or some type of referral to say, let's help you right now, but let's prevent this from happening. Because I think really, and just being honest, it's a sad state of affairs when we have single young women and men, and then they have children after children, child after child, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and nobody says nothing.
Right.
They're just making the situation worse for themselves, and no one talks to them.
Well, I want to say this. I think what you are saying is great. How does a single parent provide love and encouragement that would normally come from the absent parent? I think one of the things, since we live in a society now where there's so much divorce and there's so many new type of nuclear families, same-sex couples, adopting children. So now it's not a mother and a father, it's either two men or two women. What do you do in a situation like that? Well, one of the things for a single parent is this. First, love the child. That's number one. Number two, teach what is truth, not with anger, but teach it with love. Third, do not run down their daddy or their mama, just like your daddy. All that is fueling fury in the child, to where the child doesn't like their parents and don't realize now they don't like themselves. The third, one thing for everybody watching and listening, this is the thing I'm challenging the church on. Let's be honest about it. Church has become more entertainment than service. We want to come to receive, but not come to serve. We need men that will serve as mentors. We need also to tell to a single parent, what about your family? Do you have uncles and aunts, grandparents, or that will, you all as a village, help raise a child by the standard of your family? That's why the church today also should have standards. Our problem today in the church is we got too many different standards because everybody at home want to do their own thing. We have a children's ministry here. Majority of the parents cooperate wonderfully. But there's some parents don't mind if their children act up and think it's okay. The answer is no, it's not okay. Because we don't want to teach other children that. We're trying to teach them how to resolve problems, how to have a better life. So, and I say this in my own life growing up. My father normally worked midnights, night shift, or midnight. So he was always normally asleep when we would come home. And then a lot of things I wanted to do or needed to do, he had to get his rest to go to work. So he was doing his job, he had to work, but so what happened, my grandfather would come by on Monday nights, pick me up, and take me to this boy choir rehearsal across town. He did it every Monday night faithfully. I was thankful. I had uncles that would teach me different things. Therefore, though it may not have been my actual dad doing it, it was family members. And that's why people need to understand we need to keep our family. I remember that to me, it's a sad thing when we try best to move as far away from our family as we can. And we need to live as close as we can, because guess what? Those are people that you could turn to when your back's against the wall. And that, when you start teaching your children about cohesiveness, about family, and about traditions that are good. Tradition is not a bad word. Family should have some type of tradition about how to live, how to preserve that last name. But that goes back to the fact that, and then like I said, the church, the things we offer. We're offering more things for emotional well-being than are to live well. We're trying to make people happy who yet don't know how to live a happy life. And I think it's very important that what we really do something to help, because in church, we got children here from single parents, and they're special, and special in a good way. And we want to make sure we can offer, and that's why churches should offer all types of programs that you could bring your child to, so therefore it's not you by yourself, it's you and your church family working together. Anything else?
I'd just like to say, too, this last little thing is to talking about single households with parents who are raising, a single parent is raising their children. And there's not, I'm going to say there's not a father there, but to the single mothers, I'm going to say, please, please be conscious as to how do you speak to your children. The way that, years ago, people, how they raised children, they, hollering and screaming and a lot of unnecessary way of speaking to a child, because it has a huge impact on their life as they grow older. So I'm not saying don't discipline, definitely discipline your child, but also do it in love. There are certain things I had to learn myself coming from a single parent home and raising a child. I had 2 boys to raise, and sometimes I thought I had to be the daddy. But I wasn't the daddy. Here's our daddy.
That's right.
But I had to be the mother, and I had to learn my place myself, because I figured, well, he's working. This is, years ago when they were younger coming up, my voice would change sometimes. It's like, don't you hear me talking to you? But you have to bring it down and still have that motherly love and instinct. And I say that because I see so many young people now that have children, have young children, and how they discipline their children. And sometimes it's not always the best way, because their love is not, the child's not feeling that love in it, even though they're being disciplined. So just be very careful as to how you tend or how you show that love to the child and how you speak to that child. You still use your, you have to have discipline with that child, but do it in love and not so harsh where it comes across you don't feel that love, you don't feel that connection. So that's
Amen. And we need more classes on parenting in church.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want to ask you all one question. We got 5 minutes. Okay, this is the last question, and it is: as we get older and later in life, so we won't have children together, is it important to be of the same faith when choosing a mate? Example, if he's Baptist and you are Pentecostal. Anybody want to answer that question?
Repeat that one more time.
No problem. As we get older and later in life, so we wouldn't have children together, so apparently beyond childbearing years, is it important to be of the same faith when choosing a mate? Example, if he's a Baptist and you are Pentecostal.
Okay. Well, my response to that would be it probably differs based on your situation and your vision. If your vision is, I'm actively involved in my Baptist church and, my Baptist doctrine, what have you, and you marry somebody that's Pentecostal, even though you both are Christian, what their vision is and what their walk is going to directly conflict. And if you know that from the start, why even get yourself in that problem unless the person is willing to compromise, unless the person is willing to come over from their side to your side. But I think it's so very important to have those conversations about what is the vision for our family, children or no children. Is it we are going to celebrate this holiday? Are we going on annual trips? Yes, I'm Baptist, you're Pentecostal. Well, you barely go to church. So, and I'm more actively involved. So you see what I'm saying? These are conversations. I think a lot of people think Christian. Okay, and my pastor, he says this so wonderfully. Standing in a garage doesn't make you a car, just like standing in church doesn't just make you a Christian.
Right.
There's so many different levels of Christianity. People check the box Christian. So it's so important to ask, what's your relationship with the Lord like? What's your church involvement like? What's your vision? Where do you see yourself in ministry? And if those things don't line up, don't do it. And trust God that He will bring, because if the goal is to advance the kingdom, God is going to bring you somebody with that same vision so the two of you can be plowing the field together in the Pentecostal lane.
Very good.
All right, Nina?
That's it. That's it.
Huh?
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay, I'll say, I concur with you. I think one of the things is that people need to understand, because you say you're a Christian, does that mean we all view Christianity the same? And I know it's been used throughout the years that we should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And in the church 30, 40 years ago, they were talking about even among different other faith-believing denominations. The thing of it is that you could be of the same denomination and both still are not equally yoked. There are people I know that are great church people, lousy husbands, lousy wives, but they're good for church. But you want to marry somebody who don't come to church. You want a mate. You want someone that connects with you. I think that anybody who's getting married, they should really have an honest heart-to-heart talk. I know couples that got married of two different groups, as you said, one heavily actively involved in their church, other one attends church, but that's their family church. They're not going to move from there. But then they find themselves never coming together. That part became the small fox that began to destroy the vine. They find themselves separating and creating other friends away from one another. So finally, they have pulled totally separate. They come home together. They see each other, but there's not that growing together. And that's something that why last week, this week, why even here at Greater Grace Church, we need a lot more teaching about relationships. We've been too quiet about it for way too long, because people need strong, healthy, happy marriages and homes. And I'm gonna tell anybody, don't look for God to change your mate just because you prayed on them. You need to ask God to help you to make whatever change you think is necessary, but you two together need to talk and to communicate and come to oneness if all possible. If not, then what do you do? A preacher said that. I hope you got something out of tonight's session. We'll be coming back one more time. We got more stuff to talk about. If you have questions, please call the church or please go to our website, send them in, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. I hope this has been helpful. Hope it gives you some insight. And I conclude with this. What our entire discussion about is, as we today celebrate Valentine's Day, about love. If you don't have a significant other. I want you to know that. I'm not saying this to be cliche. You got somebody that really loves you, and that's Jesus. And besides Jesus, if you just stop and think about it, there's people that love you. You may not have the husband, may not have the wife. You may have the husband and wife and don't have the relationship you want. But let me tell you, my friend, whatever you do, do not allow bitterness to set in your life. Keep loving. Keep loving God, love yourself, love people. And let me tell you, and that what you so desire in life, just keep trusting God. He has a way of blessing our life, but have the knowledge you need so you know what is of God. All right? Anything else you want to say? Final comments? Anybody?
I think you said it all perfectly, and you guys have been married for 46 years. That is
46
amazing.
years.
That is amazing. I think people need to see that on Valentine's Day.
All right, everybody. Well, God bless you. See you Sunday, 8 a.m. and 10:30. And also, before we go, I want to remind you on February the 24th, we call it Go Day at GGC. Now, what we're going to do, there'll be a company here that will be buying your gold and your silver and platinum. And if you have diamonds, they said they'll talk to you about that. But what this is part of our fundraising for Angels of Grace. You may say, I don't have the cash. I don't have money to give. But guess what? You got a broken gold chain that all is just sitting there. You're never going to get it fixed. Why not bring it to the church? And the church will get a little donation from it. You, therefore, can get money from it. And if you just want to donate it to the church, toward your Angel of Grace, that'd be great. And this is just not for members, our friends who are watching live stream. You could be a blessing to Greater Grace too. So I'm looking for on the 24th, let's pack this lobby from one to the east to the west, and let's bring gold, and let's be a blessing to the work of God. And God will be a blessing to you. So God bless you all. Have a good night. Love your life. And again, happy Valentine's Day. God bless.